Audrey Rose Milton leaned forward in the tall summer growth, breathing fast, her fingers pressing into the ground as if the earth itself might hold her firm. Jack Tanner knelt near her back, one hand steady on her upper leg, the other held above the spot. "Careful, thought out, gentle," she whispered. Her voice was strained and out of breath. "This is my first attempt." He leaned in close enough that she felt his breath warm at her ear. "It'll be done quickly," he murmured. Anyone looking from the road could have believed the wrong thing. Her breath caught, and the way he held her looked almost too personal for the open field. From a distance it could have sounded like a hidden moment, not a danger. But Audrey wasn't shaking from passion. She was shaking because something sharp had cut her leg, and if he made a mistake here, she might not live at all. Audrey gasped, sharp and sudden, and her legs almost gave way. Jack did not pull back. He did not hurry. He stayed right there, strong, balancing her weight with his own. "Do not move," he said softly. Then she cried out, and Jack saw the blood clearly. Dark red spread across the thin white cloth at the back of her upper leg, getting wet fast where a rusted point had torn her when she dropped against the barrier. No nice way to state it. It was deep enough to need closing, and dirty enough to become fatal if they waited. Jack had seen men lose a limb to less, and he wasn't about to watch it happen to her. Jack's eyes dropped, not with craving, but with attention. "This is bad," he said, low and steady. He ripped a strip from his neck covering and pressed it hard against the cut, firm enough to stop the flow, gentle enough not to break her trust. Jack Tanner was 48, wide-shouldered, marked by sun and dirt, a man shaped by long days and longer quiet times. Audrey Rose Milton was 22, trembling with pain and fear, and unused to a man's hands touching her without cruelty hiding behind them. When he held her steady, it was not ownership, it was safety. When his fingers moved closer to her skin, it was not desire, it was necessary. The wide open area lay exposed and harsh around them. The wind pump turning slowly near Jack's property edge, the heat pushing down without apology. No one else came running. No one else came to help. Jack lifted her gently onto his horse and turned toward his farm near the river, his hand firm at her back. "Hold on," he said. Audrey didn't know whether she was riding toward a safe place or heading right into the next kind of trouble. She did not know yet about the needle waiting by his fire. She did not know about Ben Milton, the brother who would come looking for her with lies and hitting. And as the horse began moving, one question burned louder than the pain in her leg. Was this the time that saved Audrey Rose Milton, or the time that would ruin both of them? The ride to Jack Tanner's farm felt longer than it was, every step of the horse sending a dull reminder through Audrey Rose Milton's leg. She kept one hand tight on the saddle front, and the other pressed against the neck covering Jack had tied there, already dark with blood. Jack rode slowly, calmly, one hand on the reins, the other ready in case she slid. "You were doing fine, friend," he said, like he'd said it 100 times before to scared animals and tired people. She nodded, even though she wasn't sure she believed him yet. Her sight kept getting smaller, and she fought the darkness like it was an enemy chasing her. The farm came into sight just as the sun began to go down. A low wooden house, a wind pump squeaking, horses moving in the fenced area. Jack helped her down with care, keeping his hands where she could see them, letting her move at her own speed. Inside, the air smelled of cleaner, leather, and hot coffee. He sat her on the edge of the bed and started the work without fuss. Water warmed on the fire. He kept looking at the door, because out here, problems like to appear when your hands were busy. A needle and thread were placed beside a bottle of liquor, not for drinking, but for cleaning. No medicine out here besides heat, clean water, and good fortune. Jack boiled everything twice, then poured liquor over the needle like he didn't trust fate one bit. He washed his hands with strong soap, then rinsed them clean. "This is gonna sting," he said. She tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "Expected," she said. When the cloth was raised, she gasped through her teeth, then stopped moving. He saw it right away. "Breathe," he said. "You do not need to fight the pain." When the needle touched her skin, her fingers clenched the blanket. "Gentle," she whispered again, softer than before. "This is my first try." Jack nodded like that explained everything. "It'll be over quickly," he said, and this time she trusted him. He let her see the needle in his fingers, then went right back to the job. He slipped the needle in, steady and sure. His focus locked on the work, not on her body. Between stitches, she gave him the short version, a brother with debts and a town that saw her as payment. Jack didn't interrupt. He didn't offer promises he couldn't keep. He just listened and kept closing the cut. When it was finished, he tied the last knot and leaned back. "All ready," he said. But Jack's eyes stayed on the wrap because the real fight might start after the sewing was done. She let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. He wrapped the bandage carefully and stood, giving her room. "You can stay," he added, like it was no big deal, "as long as you need." He didn't ask for her story first, and that's what made her trust him. Audrey looked around the room at the quiet walls, the single lamp, the door that locked from the inside. For the first time in a long time, she felt sleep pulling at her. But somewhere beyond the property line, a man who thought he owned her was already starting to look. That night, her skin went hot and cold. Jack sat by the bed and watched her breathe like a man counting seconds. By morning, he would know if this was just fear or the start of sickness. And when he found this place, would Jack Tanner still be able to keep her safe? On the third morning after the stitches, Audrey Rose Milton woke to the sound of wind turning the mill and a smell that made her stomach rumble. Coffee. Real coffee, not just hope in a metal cup. Her leg ached, but it was a clear ache now, the kind that meant healing had started. She tried to stand once, turned pale, and sat back down hard. Jack didn't argue. 2 days in bed, he said, then short steps only. She sat up slowly and noticed the small things first. The door closed right, a chair set near enough to reach if she required it, and a folded note on the table that read, "I'll be outside if you wake." Jack slept on a simple bed near the stove, not in her room. "You'll have room here," he said. "I won't enter it." By the third day, Jack Tanner was fixing the fence when she stepped onto the porch, moving careful but proud she could stand on her own. She spent the morning doing what she could from one spot, taking beans from their pods into a dish on her lap, folding clean cloth for bandages, counting every slow breath like it was a job. When her leg throbbed, she didn't complain. She asked for a cane instead of a hand. By afternoon, she told him more, not everything at once, just enough to let the truth out. She spoke about Ben Milton, her older brother, and how he changed after their parents died, how debts started showing up faster than money, how men at the edge of the city began calling her an answer instead of a person. Jack listened, cleaning his hands on a cloth, eyes steady, jaw tight, but silent. "He won't stop," she said. "No," Jack answered. "Men like that don't." Later that day, a rider passed the far fence line and slowed just long enough to look. He wasn't lost. He was counting horses, windows, and the way back. If you're still with me about, hit subscribe now because what happens next is the kind of trouble folks in the area still talk about. Tell me what time it is where you are and where you're listening from. And if you've got a cup of tea or coffee nearby, take a sip and settle in. Jack saw it too. He did not wave, he did not call out, he simply watched until the dirt settled and the road went empty again. That night, he checked the locks twice and set a light by the door. Not to scare her, but to tell her she mattered. They shared the evening meal without fuss. Beans, bread, a little meat. Jack told a story about a horse that learned to open gates and cause problems all over 3 areas. Audrey laughed. Real laughter, the kind that surprises you when it comes back. Before going to sleep, Jack said, "If anyone comes asking, you don't owe them a reply." She nodded, grateful he did not pretend this was simple. As she lay down, the farm quiet around her, she realized safety was not just a place. It was a choice someone made for you when you could not make it for yourself. Because out beyond that fence line, Ben Milton was coming, and Jack could already feel the kind of trouble that doesn't knock gently. Still, the next sound they heard wasn't a wild dog or the wind. It was a man coming up the walk like he owned the place. The knot came just after midday, firm and without haste, like the man on the other side already knew the answer. Jack Tanner wiped his hands on a cloth and stepped onto the porch, eyes checking the yard before the door was fully open. 2 horses stood at the fence, one rider still on the saddle, the other already on the ground. Audrey Rose Milton felt it before she saw him, the tight pull in her chest, the name rising like a bruise. The sound of his boots in the dirt told her the past had finally arrived. "Jack Tanner," Ben Milton said, smiling like he had a right to be there. "I'm here for my sister." Audrey moved to the doorway, slow but steady, her bandaged leg reminding her of every step. "I'm not leaving," she said. Ben laughed, short and sharp. "You don't get to choose that." Jack stayed calm. "You've said what you needed to say," he replied. "Time to move on." Ben's smile dropped. He stepped closer, hand moving toward his belt, eyes never leaving Audrey. "You hiding her now," he said. "That makes you part of this." The first shove came quick. Ben pushed Jack hard, trying to catch him off balance. Jack took the hit, feet planted, and answered with a grip that stopped things from going further. The mounted rider slid down, reaching for his own weapon. Audrey shouted, but her voice got swallowed by dust and boots. Jack did not swing first, but when Ben came again, Jack had no choice. Ben rushed him with a knife he tried to hide behind his sleeve. Jack caught the wrist, got a cut across his own knuckles, and still kept the blade away from Audrey. They slammed into the fence hard enough to shake the boards. Jack twisted the knife free and kicked it into the dirt. The second man stayed nearby like a wild animal that hadn't yet decided. Then old Mr. Harrison from the next property stepped up with a gun and said, "That's enough." After that, the second man recalled an urgent reason to stay out of it. Neighbors gathered at the fence line, drawn by noise and dust. Someone shouted that Ben struck first. Another said they saw the knife. That was enough to take him to town. Jack tied Ben's hands and pulled him to his feet. "You'll answer for this in town," Jack said. Ben spat dirt and smiled. Anyway, by sundown, they got Ben into town with his hands tied and his anger loose. The lawman didn't believe anybody at first. Then he saw the knife, saw the blood on Jack's knuckles, and heard 3 people say the same thing. Only then did the restraints appear. In the quiet after, Audrey realized Jack hadn't just protected her body, he'd protected her right to choose. Jack rode back alone, the farm quiet when he returned. Audrey waited on the porch, fear and comfort tangled together. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes," he answered. "Simple as truth. I did." But as the stars came out, one question stayed between them. Had the danger passed, or had it only just begun, now that Ben Milton knew exactly where to find her? The days that followed were quieter but not empty. A full week passed before Jack even let himself look at her for too long. Jack Tanner did not act like a savior, and Audrey Rose Milton did not act like someone saved. They moved through the farm together. Slow mornings, shared work, small talks that mattered more than speeches. He fixed a broken gate, she learned how to salt meat without wasting it. Life settled into a rhythm that felt earned. One evening, as the sun dipped low and colored the grass gold, Audrey stood by the fence watching the horses move easy and free. "I've never stayed anywhere because I chose it," she said. Jack leaned beside her, forearms resting on the rail. "First time for everything," he replied, not joking, just honest. One night, when the wind softened and the house held its breath, she stepped closer to him. There was no rush, no fear, just a quiet understanding that something had grown between them without either forcing it. When Jack reached for her, he waited. When Audrey lifted her face, she decided. Jack stopped and asked, "Is this what you want?" He didn't move until she nodded. Audrey answered by taking his hand and pulling him to her. No doubt left. Their kiss was slow and certain, not born of being alone, but of respect, like 2 people finally standing on equal ground. Audrey stayed, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she wanted to build something where she stood. Jack learned that being strong did not mean standing alone. Sometimes it meant letting someone walk beside you. The lesson was simple, but not easy. You are not owned by your past. You are not defined by the worst thing someone tried to do to you. Safety is not just walls and locks. It is trust. It is choice. It is someone saying you matter and meaning it. If you have ever wondered whether it is too late to start again, let Audrey and Jack answer that for you. If you have ever stayed somewhere out of fear instead of hope, ask yourself what might happen if you chose differently. And if someone once told you that you belong to them, who would you be if you believed instead that you belonged to yourself? In the West, a good man wasn't judged by how hard he hit. He was judged by what he refused to do when nobody was watching. If this story moved you, take a moment to tap like and subscribe to the channel. It helps keep these stories alive and reaching the people who need them. And before you go, I would love to know what time is it where you are right now, and where are you listening from? Because somewhere out there, someone is standing at the edge of a new beginning, just like Audrey once did, wondering if one brave choice can change everything.